Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Meaningful People podcast. On this episode, we've got Rav Judah Mischel for you. Rav Judah Mischel is the executive director at Camp Hask. He's an educational consultant for the OU. Him and his wife and their 8 children live in Ramat Beit Shemesh all the way in Eretz Yisrael.
And he's such a awesome and real person that we've both heard so much about. And he blew our expectations as a person, so down to earth, so real.
You had low expectations?
No, I had high expectations, and he blew those expectations.
Right. And a fun fact about this, we actually recorded this episode, and then we got into such a nice organic conversation with him again that we recorded like another episode after.
Yeah, but more of that later. More of that later. We want to, again, thank our friends at AMR Pharmacy for making this all possible, and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Ciao.
Welcome to the Meaningful People podcast, the podcast where we talk to people who are
meaningful.
Yeah, that sounds good. So here we are with Rav Judah Mischel.
Thank you.
I called him Rabbi Judah, but
you also called him Mischel.
Oh, it's not Mischel? Am I pronouncing your name incorrectly?
That's fine. That's okay.
How does one pronounce your name?
Judah.
Last name?
Mischel.
So you seem to me like a very frum person or very spiritual. I don't know what the right word is, especially with that beard.
Where did you get? Where did that from? Based on what? My
the
sneakers?
Beard. No, it's the beard.
Yaakov asked Rav Judah when he came in here, "Oh, you didn't want to shave for this," and you decided not to.
Yeah.
We
I was thinking about it.
Yeah, you're thinking. Yeah. So you're known as Judah. I find interesting. Was there ever a thought to change your name, or is it Badafka? We got to keep it as Judah.
Well, my parents really are the ones who chose that name for me. I was named after my grandfather.
And he went by Judah.
His name was Yehuda. He went by Julius. My parents were gracious and named me Judah. I never thought about changing it.
Julius.
Yeah, it's
a name.
It could be a cool name these days.
Yeah, he was a hero. He was a war hero. He fought in World War II and was injured during the Battle of the Bulge.
He was American?
He was an American soldier, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was an American soldier. Both of my grandfathers, Aleim Shalom, paternal and maternal, were both members of the United States military during World War II, and the Marines and Navy, respectively. Yeah.
Where were you born?
I grew up in Muncie. I was born in New York and grew up in Muncie, New York.
And did you envision yourself living in America for your whole life?
No.
Really? From the outset, you're like, I'm not.
From the outset, when I was 6 years old, I was thinking about it. On our house, there was never talk about long-term in American living. As young as I could remember, my parents were talking about living in Israel and the importance of living in Israel. This is not our place, and it's actually a very, very meaningful part of our upbringing. Patriotic and respectful, and we went to Memorial Day gatherings, and
really?
There was a real patriotism because the service was a very strong tradition.
It's unique in the frum circles.
Yeah, my parents, thank God, didn't inherit the trauma of the frum community, and they came to it later in life, and it's a constant work in progress for everybody. We got right into this, huh?
Yeah,
I appreciate that. No,
do you want to go out? We could go back out.
No, you're content guys. This is good. No, it's great.
You didn't even realize it.
No, all right. It was a very important, and is a very important part of our family narrative, and the culture of the family, service and respect, and respect for military, respect for law and order, which is unique. My parents grew up. My father more in a traditional home, my mother less so. And their Yiddishkeit that they came into was very experiential, was very real, and very connected with Eretz Yisrael, very much so. Zionism, activism was very much at the core, and is very much at the core.
Was there a particular reason that your family didn't go when you were younger?
So it's a great question. My parents tried. They were the family that were always going on pilot trips and talking about it. And my father would spend a lot of his vacation days, worked on Wall Street, and he'd spend vacation days volunteering in Israel, and Volunteers for Israel, actually. He's still very involved in it. And we would take family vacations. That's where we went. We never went to Florida or California. It wasn't a thing. We didn't go up to the mountains or sleepaway camps. Yeah, we'd always discuss it and say, the family value system is that this is where we're heading and this is what's important to us. And thank God. Baruch Hashem.
I saw that you were on the first Nefesh B'Nefesh flight
True story.
to go
Really?
live in Israel.
How many hits on Google down was that? When you,
I actually heard
Third page.
I heard on a different podcast that you were on.
Nice.
A few years ago. So I heard that. What was that like?
It was. I have like very little memory of it, just because we had like a little baby with us, and it was like very sweaty, and you'll, God willing, have this wonderful experience. It was just like. And it was emotional. It was amazing.
how
It was
long ago was
awesome.
that?
It was awesome.
What year was that?
It was. I probably took it 18 years ago. 18
Wow.
summers ago. Yeah.
2002. I'm so good with math when the year's 2020.
18 summers ago, and it was actually this summer 18 years ago, and it was an unbelievable thrill to be part of that. It felt, and it was part of a historic movement, and that's
Was it hard for you to do? Was it like, was there a, like, you know what, let's just go, or was it a thing that you thought you saw was going to happen?
It was something I always wanted. Even, let's say, different points in life where let's say you said I come across as a very firm person, which I don't know exactly that. Even the times where
What does that
it's
mean?
just the beard. It's nothing else.
I appreciate that. Even at times where, let's say, in Yiddishkeit in high school, and other times where the practice and halacha was not necessarily at the center of my life, or even it wasn't even on the radar screen so much. Being connected to the people and to the land of Israel always was. It always was, and I always wanted to. Yeah,
I assume that those values were shared with you and your wife. And
yeah. Well, my wife Ora, who really is, she's really the center of everything in my life. It was the first thing we spoke about when we met each other, and her family was living in Israel. Thank God. Her brothers, most of her brothers now are living in Israel, and parents, my in-laws, live there. And they're Marbitzei Torah and lovers of Eretz Yisrael, and that was always part of her family trajectory, and a shared value. And thank God, we're very lucky.
Right.
We consider ourselves, one of the like very fortunate, very blessed.
I'm jealous. Like,
should be.
I wish I could do that. I wish.
Well, you didn't even go to
can.
Israel for yeshiva.
I
so
know,
let's
but
start
I've been
slower.
there. I've been there many times. Like, I'm not saying probably every year, every other year with my family, and as our last year with my wife, and it's always hard to leave, and we we always think like it's just, I don't know, it's so hard to
That's
pick
healthy,
up and go.
but that's healthy. It's Parshas Pinchas. It's the Parsha of Chalukas Haaretz, meaning every Jew has a chelik, has a portion in Eretz Yisrael. There's a place in Eretz Yisrael that's waiting for you.
Does that mean real estate or
Real estate. There's real estate. Sure. There's real estate. There's real estate here. There's just there. But it's a little different. There's the kesher that a Jew has with Eretz Yisrael is something which transcends just another place. It's not another option. Oh, maybe Bergenfield, maybe Passaic, maybe Brooklyn, maybe. It's a completely different category.
It's a dream,
it connects to the deepest place of Jewish identity. Rabbi Nachman says that Eretz Yisrael, in other words, Ani Rotzeh. Eretz is Ani Rotzeh. It represents our yearning to just be Jews, to be Yidden. V'ha'aretz eskor, right? V'ha'aretz eskor. Even after there's v'zacharti brisi
Itam.
Brisi Yaakov.
Oh, wow.
There's Brisi
Yeah.
Yitzchak. There's Brisi Yaakov.
It's
I hope
a
my Rebbe's
song.
not
V'ha'aretz
listening to
eskor.
this.
It is a song. That's true.
That's what I was thinking.
But there's a kesher that a Yid can have on the level of Yaakov Avinu, represents Torah. And there's the mitzvah satluyas ba'aretz and the avir d'Eretz Yisrael machkim, and so there's a place where the Sanhedrin was, the Beis Hamikdash was. So that's the shaychus we have. That's also good. That's beautiful. There are Jews who connect to the land of Israel like that, and then there's Jews who might not, and they connect to the bris of Yitzchak Avinu, which represents avoda and Mesiras Nefesh.
Yeah,
Right? There are Jews who are ready to die for the Jewish people, to defend the land of Israel, to defend the honor of the Jewish people, which is paramount value, who aren't necessarily connected to the bris, learning Torah and mitzvahs necessarily. But then there's even Jews who are not necessarily connected to the bris of Yaakov and the bris of Yitzchak, and that's v'zacharti brisi Avram. Of course, so I'll remember the covenant of Avram, which represents chesed and represents the idea of Jewish identity or tikkun olam. Nowadays that's being challenged by these treacherous movements within the Jewish people, trying to draw people away from Eretz HaKodesh. But then there's just a level of haaretz as core. Meaning there's just something which is fundamental and basic to our identity, which is we're drawn to Eretz HaKodesh, like a moth is drawn to light. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's good that you're jealous. It's healthy. It's positive. And it could be a real thing too.
You never, Yaakov, you don't want to move?
I did live there for 6 years altogether between being a bacher and being married there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Which, I miss it very much. I do want to say if Nefesh B'Nefesh is listening to this, just know now he wants to go there and maybe
recruit.
we could talk
Not to turn this into like an Aliyah Chronicles, but you grew up you grew up in Muncie, and you have children, Baruch Hashem, in Eretz Yisrael, and you raised them as Israelis. Was that hard? I was listening to a panel. There was a panel with Rav Itiel Goldwich and a few other people talking about Aliyah, and that was one of the things brought up. Like, was it difficult? You are American. You grew up as an American yeshiva boy.
Your grandparents fought in World War II.
Yeah, you're like very patriotic, and now you're raising kids in Israel.
True.
Is it different? Do you find they have more
challenges in what's that?
Do you find that they have more Ahavas Torah growing up in Israel?
I don't know. I don't have anything to judge it against. I'm being serious. I don't know. I don't have that I don't have that algorithm of how to judge that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
But I know that we're doing our best to create a positive life and a happy life, and I don't know. We're in the middle of it. I can't. Yeah. I'm not going to be that guy talking about chinuch habanim. I'm not going to be that guy talking about chinuch tips. Like I don't know. We're that's where we live. It's not like there is something that they knew before, or something that there's another option on the table. Right. It's what our life is. That's what's natural. That's their sfat aim. It's their mama land. It's their place. And we actually effortfully and very consciously look to create opportunities to appreciate where we are, and we talk about it, and we express our karas hatov for it, and we don't take it for granted. Not one of these guys who's going to sit here and like tell everybody that drop what you're doing and come, but I'm not one of these alarmists, but I mean, it is a very Jewish thing to like live in Eretz HaKodesh, and it's also just a statistical reality that 4/5 didn't make it out of Mitzrayim. They're just happy where they were. They're stuck. They didn't hear the go home Jacob and said, no, it's okay over here. There's good cucumbers and all right, not everybody has that ruach acheres. I don't get that, but we can aspire to that.
I think I'm going to get on a flight after this podcast.
No, we could yearn for that.
I'm going to buy cucumbers over here.
we could yearn for that.
Yeah.
There's more than where we are. It's where we want to be, and more than what we're doing. It's what we intend to do. There's the higher part of ourselves is what we aspire and yearn for. Ritzonos, to be machshav ritzonos, and Eretz Yisrael is an expression of ritzonos.
Something I want to talk to you about is, I know it's a little part of your life, HASC.
Yeah, Camp HASC is a very important part.
Yaakov, do you know what HASC stands for?
Yes. Human Association for Society of Communism.
No.
No? Oh, that's a different thing? No,
I think HASC stands for...
I literally heard you say it on this other place where I was listening to
you.
you.
The H is the hard one. I don't even know what the H is.
I don't know.
What's the H?
Bailing you out?
What's the H? Give us the H.
Lifeline.
You know who I am?
Just the H.
It's the Hebrew Academy for Special Children.
That makes so much more sense.
It's that simple.
I can't believe I said
48 years,
communism.
it's been in many different iterations. It's been at the forefront of providing services, educational and therapeutic services, and summer respite program for people with special needs and intellectual disabilities.
It's a big part of your life.
It's my job, and it's a passion too. It's a place that I feel very, very deeply connected to. I drank the Kool-Aid. Let's call it like that. And
but you didn't go there as a staff member.
I never
right?
worked there as a staff member. No, I was never one of those guys.
That's probably like,
was never one of my
I
guys.
guess I don't know. It's unique. We had Rabbi Dembi on from Camp Simcha, and he was in Camp Simcha for many years, and then became the head counselor. I assume that's a lot of people. They spend their time in a camp, and then they get to the head counselor.
Yeah.
But you have an interesting story. You were the rabbi there first, right?
Yeah, meaning I had never worked there as in my teen years or my yeshiva years. It never was a hava. I mean, I never crossed my mind. I never thought of it. I didn't understand when guys went. I never I'm like, I don't know. I'd go hang out for the summer, learn. I used to schlep trunks and learn and hang out and barbecue. I never thought to be in that type of service. It wasn't really a sprach and it wasn't a conversation. But I had the great schos when I was in Reshit. I was in Yeshiva Reshit for 10 years, and my wife's family's Yeshiva. And a lot of the guys were being encouraged to go work there. And the opportunity came up to join the staff as the camp rabbi. And when I had the conversation, actually a wonderful person named Naftali Herman, who was the shadchan, so to speak, I was like, nah, it's not for me. I it's not my world. It's not my wheelhouse. I just don't know it. But as soon as I got off the phone and I mentioned it to Ora, I mean, she was like, "We're there."
Ora is your wife.
She had worked there. Yeah, she had worked there for, as a young for 4 summers, and it was her, happy place. And I heard about it on our first date, and it was a place that she felt and feels very deeply connected to. And I got there, and it was a little bit of an adjustment, but we fell in love. I fell in love with the service, with the Ahavas Yisrael in action. I fell in love with seeing people from the inside out, defining people for who they are and not what they can do or can't do. I fell in love with like the level playing field and the relationships that are formed there with the Mesiras Nefesh. I fell in love with the Yiddishkeit there, and I've had the schus now for the past 16 years being there.
I never got the schus of visiting yet. Rich Hashem.
Yeah.
I'd imagine the campers are probably so diverse. Mm-hmm. Probably you have Hasidic campers and you have campers who are not from.
Klal Yisrael, it doesn't discriminate. This doesn't discriminate, and it's actually one of the more special parts of the program that's a real turn on for me is that you have a staff that's primarily young people, kids from let's call it the centrist community, the modern Orthodox community, and the campers were coming from homes where you have Hasidic or Yiddish speaking families and every type and every stripe and every walk of life, and families who aren't Shomer Shabbos or observant of Jewish law are all together, and there's this beautiful community that's built based on love, based on the fundamental of Ahavas Yisrael, and it's really something which is very, very powerful. It's contagious, and it's awesome. Yeah, so it's very special to be there. You're welcome to come visit.
Yeah, this is an official invite.
It's an official invite. I mean, you're gonna get a Q-tip up the nose before you walk in the gate.
That's
like an amazing
Wear
job.
press pass. Wear press pass.
Right. Get in there.
It must be an amazing job. You're seeing miracles also. You're seeing people do things that they never thought they could do, and
yeah,
that's
true.
overachieving.
Rav Dessler explains like how that works. Right? There's like the Seder HaBriya is a certain way, right? But when one person performs an act of service which is against, so to speak, their nature, so then the order of creation has changed. And in response, the Ribono Shel Olam responds in kind, Mida Kineged Mida, right? Example that Rav Dessler points to is Isha Shunamit, who opens the door and welcomes in the prophet. And after housing the prophet, he heads on his way, and her son, his son is there, right? So Elisha is able to perform Tchias HaMesim. Rav Dessler explains the reason why he was able to change the Seder HaBriya and revive him, bring him back to life, was because she was Moseres Nefesh and opened the door for him and welcomed him in. It was in the power of that chesed, of extending herself, that empowered him and created this channel of divine ability, so to speak, to turn over the Seder HaBriya. That's what's happening. So when a child takes their first steps in the pool, or says their first word, or overcomes a medical or behavioral hurdle, I believe it's because of the OT, the occupational therapy, the physical therapy, the speech therapy. It's because of the carryover. It's because of all of that. But it's also because you have this supernatural power called Ahavas Yisrael, and you have this incredible Mesiras Nefesh from the staff giving themselves their time.
The fact that it exists, that there is a Camp Hask, you're saying it's like a domino effect.
Yeah,
that's a really nice moser.
It's a very powerful limud schus on the Jewish people. I believe that you mentioned Camp Simcha. I believe when we talk about these places and we think about the givers and those who are dedicating themselves in the service of others, it awakens divine compassion. Meaning, you see somebody walking down the street wearing a sweatshirt, a Yachad sweatshirt, or a Camp Simcha, or Kids of Courage, or a Hask, or whatever it may be. You identify that person's proudly identifying as somebody who's ready, saying, "Hineni, I'm here to help. I care about other people." And that's unbelievable. That's
I told
is.
Rabbi Demby this, that I find it interesting I'm calling him Rabbi Demby, but he's Rabbi Demby, and I told him, I said, Camp Simcha is the biggest scam, and then I made a heavy pause. I said, I'll tell you why, because when you don't know, you just hear Simcha, it's the most fun place, and you get there and you work your tush off. You're working very hard, but then while you're working, you're like, this is actually way better than I anticipated. like going through all this hard work, maybe being up late at night or having to, help a kid that you didn't sign up
Wear
for.
that Spider-Man costume in the heat.
Exactly. But then you're like, you know
hard.
what? This is really what giving is. And it's when I say scam, I mean it in the most positive way ever.
You can edit that.
It's a great scam.
No. But like I met, is Hask like that also? Like people, they can't imagine. Do they know what they're getting themselves
I
into?
asked him to say has the scam. I don't think he's going to say
No, not scam like that, but scam like people like can't even anticipate what the work is, but then they realize it and they're like, this is better than anything I could have ever imagined.
That's what it means, that the aron is no say is no sav. And more that a person receives, more the person gives, you receive. I mean, that's the palindrome of giving, of no saying. Yeah, Camp Hask is in a typical year, 7-week program. And there's no sessions. It's 7 weeks. That means for Sheva Shabbosos Tamimo, 7 weeks, young men and women are there in the bunks. And often you're dealing with people who have severe medical issues. It's G-tubes, people who are confined to a wheelchair, feeding, cleaning, diapering, showering, doing things that a typical parent of a typical developing child doesn't do. The bond and the relationship that's formed is something which is incredible, and how that incubates a sense of responsibility, of achrayus, of leadership, of ownership, and godless hanefesh is something very beautiful, because we're touching not just the power of giving, because sometimes when you give, you can feel like you're, you can feel like a balgaiva.
Mm-hmm.
I gave 2 weeks. I volunteered. Mm-hmm. I got some good merch. I volunteered. I got a couple sodas. No, I'm being serious.
Right.
They blew, they blew some smoke at me, and I feel
It's
good.
good for the shidduch resume.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's also okay. I mean, it's good to feel good about giving and doing good things. It's fine.
Right.
That's beautiful. It's holy. That's how the world goes around. That's great. But what's powerful, what I'm noticing in Camp Hask that's really something unique, is that a lot of time the feedback is different. You could be with an individual who's not responsive, who's not verbal, who's not necessarily, saying thank you or talking or schmoozing with you and giving that feedback. And there the giving takes on a different dimension. You're touching a place which is lamala matam vadas, of recognizing that I'm important as a person, and this individual is important as a person, not because of their big ideas and not because of their IQ or their accomplishments, their abilities. They're good at hockey. He's got a girlfriend. He's got a big portfolio. Makes a lot of money. He was whatever. He plays guitar, whatever it may be, or he's good in learning. Recognizing that he's important because he exists. He's important because he's in a neshama. It's important because Hashem created him or her. And then it awakens within the giver, wow, I'm important, not because I'm in service and not because I'm doing this great act of kindness, but I'm important because Hashem created me, kacha, because of who I am, not because of what I'm doing or what I'm able to do. That's called lemala mitam vadas. That's beyond reason. They're touching a higher place than giving. I'm touching a higher place called being, that we're important because we are. We're created in the divine image. Kodesh Baruch Hu is chaviv adam shenever betzelim. The chaviv in Yisrael, a yid, was called banan l'makom. There's an unconditional love and acceptance that comes from being in the service of an individual with special needs, and that's what awakens in us the recognition that we're important because we all have special needs. There's no difference between us. I could walk and they're in a wheelchair. I could speak and they're not verbal. Okay, I can go to college. Okay, those are technical chitzoni. Those are outside differences. Those are levushim. But when you spend that time immersed in that environment, you're touching something much deeper, more core to our identity, called Nishmas Yisrael, and that's where the power comes from. That's where that's where the real payoff is. Right? So yeah, you get a whole bunch more than the individual, who you're taking care of, feeding supper to, or helping change. The parents have a respite. The family gets a break. The individual has their therapeutic milieu, but when we're in the service of others, it can awaken within us this very powerful recognition, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, that I'm also something. And then it's a game changer. Then the way we go about life is a completely different thing. We see people as people. We see Yidden as Yidden, not based on their IQ and how much money they have and how chashuv they are and what they're wearing on the outside, but who they are on the inside. So yeah, there's a great payoff there. Absolutely.
Do you think you'll be part of Camp Hask for the rest of your life? Is that something?
I don't know. My rest of my life, I ask Hashem We should have a long life, long days, and long years, all of us.
Amen.
I should have the schus to be able to work with the Jewish people. I love what I do. I feel very blessed. I really, really love what I do. I love the people that I work with.
If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing?
Hedge fund.
Really?
I would hope so.
Nachi, we need to get into hedge
I
funds.
don't know.
I don't know what a hedge fund is, but I
It's
gotta
something
get
with
involved in it.
Sonic, no?
Already, I don't know, but that's next stop. Meaning, like next stop is hedge fund.
Wow.
Did you have a certain, besides for being a fireman or policeman, you know, is there something growing up that you had aspirations to be? I can't imagine that, you know, you know, being that you said that you never would have seen yourself there.
I want it to be thin. I want to be fat. That was my big aspiration. One day maybe I'll get there.
So no specific career.
I don't know. I took the GMAT, the GRE, the LSAT.
Whoa.
Really?
Yeah, and I had no idea.
Okay, so you're brilliant. Okay.
No, I had no idea what I was doing. That's not called brilliant. I didn't say I did well on them. I just didn't know I didn't know what I was doing. I know what I was doing. My father still wants me to pay him back for half those Kaplan courses.
That's why you.
I still don't know exactly
That's why
what
you
I'm doing.
ditched.
I still don't know how I ended up here.
That's why you left the country, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I don't know. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be happy. I want to be married to Ora, and I want to be living in a world that's good and healthy and happy and redeemed.
I love that you're saying you don't like when you grow up. Not saying that you're old at all, but
Okay, here we go.
I think a lot of people would think that like they are
Grown up
in a certain way.
Like Yaakov, you're 28. Are you grown up?
I feel a little grown up, but you have that youth.
There we go.
You know,
Say it.
I was gonna say euphemism. Is that a word?
I feel like that's.
We could edit that.
That's killing. That's
Am
killing.
I youthful? You think I'm youthful?
I feel, yeah, you're positive
Just
vibes.
enough gray that people have the perception of
Yeah,
experience.
but you probably added that. You know the
I
just
know.
for men gray thing that you
Gray
added.
is good.
Yeah, it's your experience.
Just enough.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
just your parents trust
We
you.
did have
You
D-Bash
see
on
who
with
comes
all
in,
gray.
is it white?
Yeah,
Parents
shout
trust
out
him, he's not
David
threat-
Bashevkin.
Wisdom.
Yeah,
I mean, because you see the jacket behind me?
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
important
the
that
camera
don't see
picks
the
up your
jacket.
jacket.
Yeah, that's
But the
important.
audio people listening to the podcast don't see. But for those listening, he came in with
He walked
a
in
jacket.
with a
Tight. It's a spiffy jacket.
like a Brooks Brothers gold button.
With the Brooks Brothers, okay?
I think Brooks Brothers just went big.
They went big.
Let's
They
not
filed for
throw
bankruptcy today.
Let's not throw name brands around. Let's not get there. That's not what we're holding. This is a lavush that's very important. That it's on the chair for the thing. Look, I don't know. I mean, I want to have a long life. I want to have long days. I want to.
You seem like you have some serious menuchas nefesh. Is that the case?
I aspire to. I hope so.
Well,
Do you feel calm?
I pray over that. I ask Hashem for that every day. I ask Hashem every morning after Moda'ani. I don't know if you want to go through all the details there, exactly what's happening over there, but after, a Yid does what they do in the morning, after Moda'ani, Sichas Haran, the second teaching in Sichas Haran, Rabbi Nachman's Conversations, which is the more informal way that we know what Rabbi Nachman was talking about, things that he said on the way from here to there. Rabbi Nachman says that it's a good thing, to just cast oneself upon Hashem and just say, Ribono Shel Olam, I'm yours, my day is yours. My family and all of those who depend on me are yours. And I'm counting on you, and I'm just leaning on you. And then you just open up a house account, and you open a credit line with Ribono Shel Olam for whatever happens that day. And Rabbeinu said, smocha, like simcha al kochi, just depend on me. Like malachem the dog, what do you have to worry about? Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have concerns, and I'm not worried about.
you're human.
I'm a person, yeah.
Right.
I have I have a lot of things that are on my mind, like
level.
everybody. But maybe catch me at a good moment. I don't know. I have moments of like we all do. We all have our moments of, where we're a little bit more expansive and a little bit more at ease. And there are moments where we feel balachatz. But I ask Hashem every morning to not. I don't want to be lachutz. That's the worst thing. I don't want to be lachutz. I don't want to feel like I'm under pressure being chased. Also, it's a credit to you. You make you very comfortable people. You guys are good guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are good guys.
This is the Glenn Levitt.
Are we? What are we doing? What are we asking here? We're going. What do we got?
We're getting to know you. And hopefully, people listening are getting to know you also.
75 million viewers in the last episode.
Yeah, 85. We're going to be right back to our conversation with the one and only Rav Judah. But first, we want to tell you about our sponsors, our friends at AMR Pharmacy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Naki and I are going to set up a scene. We did not plan, I promise we did not plan this before.
See how this goes.
Okay, so here, I'm going to set the scene, okay? ZBS Pharmacy, I'm not going to say, Naki's going to be the customer. He's going in, and I'm going to be an employee.
Okay.
And
This
C.
should be fun. See, and cut. Hi,
And cut?
my name is Mr. Cohen. I'm here to pick up some burn cream.
Oh, Mr. Cohn, did you get a message that your burn cream was ready?
I did actually.
Oh, so we're not going to be ready for another. Are you around for the next hour?
My burn is bubbling.
We understand and we know that, and we know we sent you a message that it's ready. But it was a burn.
Yeah, my foot is bubbling.
Oh, we thought you ordered medicine for your eyeball. Whoops. See, that's what happens when you go to places unlike
Don't
AMR
lose your
Pharmacy.
foot. Go to AMR.
Yeah, hello, AMR Pharmacy. They know what you know is a terrible scene. And that's exactly the type of service that other places give you. But no, not by AMR Pharmacy.
Guys, they have a friendly staff. They're available 24/7
That's
for
crazy.
you.
That's crazy.
24/7. That's all the hours in the day, and that's all the
including
days.
Shabbos in case there's an emergency. They're
Yeah,
ready.
They're ready for you. So give them a call, 848-222-1110. You can say, hey, I heard about you on the podcast, on the Meaningful People podcast.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, cool, okay.
Yeah. And also you could go on to their website, AMRPHARMRX.com, AMRPharmRx.com. And a lot of people say like, hey, we love your podcast. What can we do? If you need a pharmacy, use them. That will help us because they'll see people are using them and they'll say, hey, we like sponsoring them. And you know what I mean?
Enjoy. And now back to this episode.
Let me ask you, what are things that annoy you? What's your pet peeve? What are things that you're like, the world doesn't need that? Where do we start?
How open are we? We're open.
Open.
We're open, huh?
Yeah.
Labels on people I find to be not just irritating.
What do you mean labels?
Labels are for shirts, right? You mentioned Brooks, but labels are for shirts and jackets.
Nachi's the one who mentioned
That's
that. By the way.
good. No, that's good to
Yeah,
get
thanks,
into the
Yago.
whole Twiller. Like that's good for clothing, for levushim. When we start categorizing people, what's the story? You're Haredi, you're modern, you're Yeshivish, you're right wing, you're left wing. That's not just a pet peeve. It's something that the world doesn't need. Like, the world doesn't need that. Yiddishkeit doesn't need that. I mean, we're bigger than that. We can transcend that. I find that to be corrosive and undermining of the beauty of what it is to be a Jew. So that bothers me. I find that annoying. We could do this.
This
Yeah.
is an open, I don't say buck, but open podcast.
Yeah.
Chaim Levracha, friends.
He made a
Chaim,
bracha
Chaim.
before. He's drinking now.
No, minute-long inspirational clips sometimes are my pet peeve. Okay. And I'm saying sometimes.
Let's
to hedge.
talk about it.
Let's go at it.
And we said sometimes to hedge.
Sometimes what?
What? Yeah.
The pressure of being awesome and feeling lit up and connected and excited all the time. And I find sometimes to be hard.
You're looking for more a rawness?
I don't know. No, it's not that it's not important and good and beautiful and real. And I believe that every moment that a Yid is watching that, they're not watching something else. That's holy. And you're adding light and Torah and goodness into the world. Sometimes it makes me feel lachutz. Sometimes I feel pressure from it.
The pressure of like to be more.
That Hashem loves me. And that it's great. And the Torah mitzvahs are awesome. Okay. It's good. Yes, I agree with those things. I don't always, we all have our moments.
Right.
And we have our moments of katnos sometimes. And sometimes there's this pressure to be inspired. It's not hating on what you're doing. There's this dimion we have sometimes, and it's because sometimes we look at big people, Gedolei Yisrael, we look at Bali Avoda, and we create this dimion of who they are, right? Because of the way that we see them in whatever form of Instagram we see them, maybe Shal Shudis, Raiva the Raivin, or we see them at the Tish, that's their Instagram post, or whatever it is. It's through a certain filter that it's not. It's real in that moment and in that iteration, but it's hard to replicate that sometimes. And sometimes in our mind, it creates a certain unattainable, unsustainable reality that doesn't really connect with what's happening day to day, moment to moment. And it's a pet peeve of mine that sometimes we throw in the towel, or we say, well, I don't feel like that, or I can't attain that, I can't reach that. So why even try? So the whole inspiration business, which is, I don't know, again, I don't have the data and research, but sometimes this whole push toward greatness I don't know what the long-term effect is. I don't know what that long-term effect is.
I do hear that.
The she'ifa business.
It could get a little bit like there's no end game. It's like,
and there's no acquisition. The she'ifa business sometimes in the short term is like a good morphine shot, kind of like pumps you up. Yeah. But what does it look like when we don't reach that goal? How do we treat our wife when I don't reach that goal in avoda or learning, or I hit that point, 80 pages into Masechah Shabbos and like the excitement of MetLife Stadium wears off, or whatever it may be, or that shalshudis, or that shmooze, or that injection of pump kind of wears off. Like, where does that leave me after the fact? Now, I don't think that we're living in the generation of Kevas ha'echad taseh b'boker v'kevas ha'sheni taseh b'narbayim. We're not. It's not that. We're not our grandparents. We're not the day in, day out. Yidden, with all due respect to all of the Gdolei Yisrael, with all due respect to all of those who are talking about sustaining day in, day out consistency. We're not. I mean, generally, by and large, we're not consistent people. We're not. We fluctuate. We go up and down. And there's definitely a place for connecting to those highs, but sometimes that comes at the cost of feeling really frustrated and exhausted after the fact, okay, after the thrill is gone, so to speak. That sometimes to me feels like there's a price tag on this whole world of like, getting pumped and getting excited for this moment, for this Hadlakas Neiros, Chanukah, and for this Gewaldike Pesach eating.
What's the opposite of that? What's the ideal?
I don't know. I feel like if it's in the context of a really very blunt and honest, open relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom, where we're talking to Hashem and say very openly and with our own words talking to Hashem, and there's an inside out type of experience in Yiddishkeit, then those experiences are awesome. Then those moments are phenomenal, and those inspirational moments or those meaningful moments then become part of a full picture. And whether I hit it or I don't hit it, whether I hit the target or I don't, whether I fall short or not, it's okay. I put it on Hashem's credit. I have that line of credit already, right. And then it's not something which can break us. It's not like a suntan that can easily turn in a moment to a burn or fade out very quickly. It's something which could be sustainable because it's healthy and it's integrated. But that I feel like that only comes with, as I'm finding in my own personal experience, my own practice of Yiddishkeit, comes with a very honest and sincere, open talk with Hashem about these moments and these ups and as well as the downs. And then it's great, and then it's fine.
I think you're touching on kind of why this podcast started.
Yeah.
It literally, like the Meaningful Minute, there are obviously a lot of ups to it and a lot of chizik for people. But there's something about, at least what we're trying to do with this podcast, is we're trying to have a conversation with people. We want to know about them, and that gives people chizuk. And sometimes we want to know about their struggles, what they dislike, what their pet peeves are. Trying to give more of just a background. It's not here to be like, so give us inspiration. It's just more of a conversation.
Right.
And people, someone like recently like bashed us a little, like, why is meaningful people? Like, you only have big people. I'm like, no. Our goal literally is to get everyone on here. Everyone is meaningful in their own way. Yeah, right now we're starting with people that we know people are going to listen to because they know about them.
You got to bring people into the...
Yeah, exactly. But literally our goal is we want to get everyone. Everyone is meaningful in their way. And because you're not Rabbi Feiner, because you're not Rav Chaim, that's okay. You're you. What you were saying before. That's your...
Listen, if this awakens a recognition that every person has a story and everybody has a background and everyone has something to share, that's beautiful. That wasn't I'm not looking to rip. I also, by the way, don't like when there's individually plated meals. I don't like when people give you a portion. There's a lot of things that are pet peeves. I don't like when people blow their nose at the table either. I find that reprehensible. A lot of things.
Right.
Listen, we're living in a time where, like, also, I mean, we can't really be too picky about what helps us feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
Anything that's going to help us feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more connected, is great. Is great. It's just the bigger picture, long term, has to be, a context of cultivating a real grassroots, authentic kesher with the Rebbeinu Shalom, which comes in many different ways and many different forms. And there's no one way to eat a Reese's, and there's really no one way to be connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom and call out to Hashem. And Yeah, there's no trademark on what it means to have a meaningful relationship with Hashem.
You were in Camp Hask for many years. Is there a specific, I'm sure there's hundreds, is there a specific moment that has a special place in your heart, or moments, or maybe there's a time of the summer that you're like, this I love?
Yeah, that's such a great question. That's a good one. There've been, there's so many different moments that relate to staff members just getting over that initial challenge of feeling uncomfortable with another person's personal space, showering a person, cleaning them in the restroom, and developing love for somebody who on the outside, l'cha'ora, is so different, whether culturally or physically. And that doesn't get old. That never gets old. The moments that are really deeply meaningful to me are the ones that relate to my own family. Like, to be honest, as much as I love and feel connected to Camp Hask, at the end of the day, my world is my home. My world is my family. And what's very special is that we've had this chus of having our kids grow up there. And you have 8 kids. We have 8 children. Yeah,
wow.
Hashem. There's a moment that's replicated itself numerous times through different stages and different kids. But I remember the first time it happened, just how overwhelming it was. When we realized that our children didn't see a difference between campers and counselors, where there wasn't, here's a caregiver, here's a helper, here's a counselor, and that's a camper. They're different, but we're talking about. I noticed just one of our older girls just talking about campers and counselors in the same breath, and then saw them kind of like walking down the main drag in camp and say hello to each, just like, not like, hey, to the counselor, and then, hi, how are you, to the camper, but like a very natural, almost easy, comfortable chibur, connection. And that was, I saw that, and that was very powerful. I remember crying over that, very, like, just the subtle moment of like recognizing how something in the outside world, we look at people who have different abilities and different strengths and perhaps different physical limitations in one way, and then in that beautiful holy space, there's like a level playing field, and I actually saw it happen in my own family, and that was something very, very real. That was something very real that I aspire to, that I hope one day also to feel that way. I want to.
I have a similar story. My friend, I won't say his name, but he in Camp Simcha, not that Camp Simcha and Camp Hask are the same, completely different, both doing beautiful things. So he said he remembered a kid needed help in camp, and he, like, while he was helping him, he realized, it's a staff. It's one, like one of the doctor's kids. He's like, like, why do I need a help? And then he's like, what's the difference? What in the world? Like, because this child is sick or because this child has special needs, like, this is a human being.
People's is people's.
Exactly.
We all have special needs. We're not meant to do this alone. We're not meant to do this alone. We're one person, one body, different limbs connected to one supernal whole. And a yid is a yid, and a person is a person. The entire system of Torah, Sfas Emes explains, is delivered by the Ribbon Shalom for us to understand that man is created b'tselem Elokim. Right? B'tselem Elokim nevrosam. Tselem, the Sfas Emes says, Osios tziva lanu Moshe. The entire system of Torah, all of Torah is there for us to recognize in ourselves and in others that we are creating the divine image. There's nothing to do with how well you did in school or how well you could learn a Tosfos, what you look like and how much money you have. It's seeing people as people for who we are. And that's very beautiful.
Are you the person who accepts staff members into camp?
We have a team.
Are you part of that team?
I'm part of that.
What's something?
I've made a career out of getting credit for the phenomenal, talented, dedicated, awesome people that I work with. Mm-hmm. And that's a pet peeve too. But there's some. There's a head counselor. There's a program director. There's a head counselor, women's head counselor. We have a full team of people. I'm involved in the process, but interviewing people is hard for me. I'm not such a good interviewer.
Why?
From two sides. Either I sit there and I say, okay, whatever, Bacherhead, okay, tell me about your phenomenal experience as an 18-year-old leaving your underwear on the floor, like whatever it is. Or on the other side, in my bigger moments, if I had like a good lunch and like well rested and feeling good and like, listen to good niggin in the car or something like that, I can come in and it's just, everybody's beautiful and these guys are great. And this guy wants to interview and work in Camp Hask. Awesome.
It's too unpredictable, you're saying.
I just,
Okay.
and try very hard and work very hard and daven over it to see good in people. And sometimes interviews you have to pick up on people's strengths and weaknesses. And though I could probably discern and whatever, there are people who are more capable and more talented who have the more responsibility toward the direct care, who do a better job, like Ravavi Pollack and Razel Yeshua, our head counselor, our program director and head counselor. They're just better at it, and they know the needs of the campers more. So like I said, I'm part of a phenomenal group of people. But the part of the interviewing that I do enjoy is I like meeting people. Mm-hmm. I love when I meet a guy, no matter how ridiculous the interview may go, no matter what ridiculous things he says in the interview, which have happened, it's still an unbelievable Kiddush Hashem that a Jew wants to come help other Jews. It's something awesome for whatever the reason is. It doesn't matter what the kavanah is.
Through that door.
It's gewaldic. It's an unbelievable thing. It's an unbelievable thing.
What's one of the crazy things people did to try to impress you to accept them?
To impress?
Whatever. What's
anything.
Crazy shticks, like Demby said a guy just the whole time saying opera, and he's like, it was just awkward.
I mean, people come in and say, a guy once came into an interview and I asked him why he wants to work in camp. He's like, I'm not sure because I don't really like this kind of stuff. I'm like, what kind of stuff? He's like, well,
and in that moment he knew.
I'm like, what kind of stuff? He's like, I'm not like, I don't know. I'm not down for like this kind of thing. I'm like, what kind of thing? And you understand where that went.
You went in for the kill.
A little bit. And I said,
you didn't listen to a good niggin before
I said,
that.
brother, no, it was probably like 30 people. And I said, listen, brother, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a moment here of grace, and we're going to pretend this never happened. You're going to go outside. You're going to get a drink. I'm going to step out, get a little air. We're going to meet back here in like 5 minutes. We're going to try this again. Okay. And just keep in mind.
So nice of you.
An interview is me. I mean, there was no chance.
Right.
The interview is that I would keep in mind you're trying to impress.
I was so
upon us.
hoping, but like he changed it,
And now he's a division head. No, he actually.
He is you.
The emesis, he actually came.
No
and
way.
did a beautiful job.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
See?
I thought you said there's no chance.
There wasn't. But
What happened when he came back into the
His
room?
brother and whatever.
Oh, okay. So he had pull.
It wasn't worth making a fuss. And he's actually a phenomenal person.
He had a bad interview.
Whatever. He was saying something real.
Right.
Being too honest.
He was saying something real.
Right.
Because he's 18 years old. He said he wasn't conscious of the fact that he's going to agree to something that's going to change the Seder HaBriya.
Wow.
Meaning like he was saying something normal. He was saying, I didn't say it because I didn't even interview when I was 18 years old. The Limud Chus is something so powerful.
But if you were getting an interview, you probably would say the same thing.
I would have had a decent interview probably. I would have had sense not to say that.
Right.
I would have had sense to not say that. I would have had sense
wow.
not to say that.
So we've been asking a question lately, and I want Nafi to ask it about.
What's your social security number? I'm kidding. So the question we've been asking people, we get some really interesting answers, is if you can sit down for an hour with anybody in history, someone who's not around anymore, who would it be?
Someone who's not around.
Someone who's not around anymore for 1 hour. Anyone from someone recently, not recently?
I never met my father's father. My grandfather. I'd never met him. I'm named for him. I'd like to meet him. He passed away very young. He passed away when he was my age. I'm youthful. That's a raya that I'm young. I know. Yeah, I would love to meet him. I've met Baruch Hashem. I got to know my other grandparents. I never met him. That's who it would be.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd like to sit with people who are
I mean, like some people would say the Chafetz Chaim or Yosef Tzaddik, Moshe
I
Rabbeinu.
spend time with people who aren't in the world anymore. I know that sounds strange. I mean,
Yeah,
I just came
please explain.
I just came from the OL.
Yeah.
And I sat by the Rebbe for an hour.
So would you want to sit with him maybe for an hour?
No, I don't. I
'Cause
feel
you already do.
I feel like I was there. Meaning when I go to tzaddikim, when you sit by, like the Rebbe explained, death doesn't end the relationship. You don't have to have met a person physically to feel close to them, to know them, and to feel like you have a personal relationship with them. You don't have to have that. I'm not saying
Hashem is literally that being that we never never see. You never. There's so much more.
That's a very interesting take.
I also, when I'm going to sit down with Rabbeinu, I'm going to sit down with Nosson. What am I going to do? I sit down with Nosson for lunch and say, Nosson.
Yaakov said, like, he'd choose Moshe Rabbeinu, but he's worried his head would explode.
My head will explode.
Yeah, I'm saying, but again, it's Pashtuz and the Moshe Chadar Vadar. Like, there's a Bechin of Moshe in every one of us. Like, I don't feel like I have to meet Moshe Rabbeinu. I know that, I don't know if that, like, Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avdo, and I say this one, if I'm awake, and if I actually am davening Pesukei Zimra, which I aspire to, if I'm actually paying attention to Pesukei Zimra, which I aspire to, that pasuk specifically resonates. We have a kesher to tzaddikim. I might not have met my great grandparents, but they're in me. You know, I mean, the Lion King isn't the raya. The raya is that we're all part of this incredible flow of history. There are moments in history that I feel like I was a part of. I have a creative imagination, but also very much if we open ourselves up, so to speak, if we open up the Wi-Fi, and our hearts are open to the channel or whatever signal is being sent, so we could connect to that place, to those times, to those people, to those experiences, to those places. Right? If you just open up, take ourselves off airplane mode and open ourselves up, there's different reality and there's different iterations of soul and there's different places and times and things and experiences that are happening. A Yid lights Hanukkah candles, but you could be there. We're in the Mikdash. You could be there with the Chashmonayim. You're reading the Parsha. If we're really living with the times and we buy into it, again, we don't always feel this way. We're not always there. A lot of times it's just not. But we have those moments of grace. We have those moments here and there, like call it godless nefesh, of mochen the godless, of expanded consciousness, where it clicks. You know, like something happens there, and it's like you feel really connected, and it's like we can have that with tzaddikim. You have that when you go to daven by kiver tzaddikim. You can have that when you're learning svarim of tzaddikim. Svazim dovos b'kever. They're learning with us when we're learning their Torah, and we don't always feel that. You don't have to go eat kugel off of somebody's plate. Not there's nothing wrong with that, but you don't have to go eat kugels off of somebody's plate to have that experience. You can open up the Sefer, open up a Sefer Atanya, and have a Yechidus with the Alter Rebbe. That was his intention. You can open up a Lekutei Tfilos and say the words of Reb Nosson and let our prayer mold with his. That's what Sefer Tehillim is. Sefer Tehillim is just giving form to our feelings and expression to our feelings that David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim in us and with us. So I would like to meet my grandfather. I believe I'll meet him one day. I hope in many years from now. But I also know that in a certain sense, like the midos of my father and the way that he discusses, the way he describes him, and I'm certain in some way that that he's with me. And so I'd like to have a cup of coffee with him. But more than that, I'd like to have a cup of coffee with my wife, and I do. I like to spend time with my children. So I'd like to have an hour with each of my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to have a Chavetz Chaim.
8 hours.
Yeah. I don't need to have the Chavetz Chaim. I'm not saying bad. I don't need to have. I don't need to sit down with Rabbi Yashiv.
Want to be very present.
What am I going to talk to Rabbi Yashiv about? I'm going to be belachutz that I don't know what. I have nothing to say.
Were you always like this? Is that a weird question? Like,
it's definitely a weird question, but it's a good question.
Like,
you're very tapped.
You're very present,
tall, dark, handsome, well dressed.
No, like you're very present. All those things. So you're very present. What were you
catching me?
Were you a moody
moment.
Teenager? Like,
do you want to talk to my parents? Moody.
You should know. Most guests we call our parents.
Talk to my parents. You're welcome. Were you moody? I certainly was.
I'm moody.
I'm moody now. I'm also moody.
You seem.
I'm in a
so
good mood
calm.
right now. I'm in a good mood right now.
I've met you other times also. You seem so calm and so present. And
I'm married to the most self-actualized human being that I've ever met in my life. I'm married to a really special person. And
is this something you work on? Is there something that do you have to like say, okay, don't get work done?
Anybody who knows me is thinking like, yeah, okay, this guy, stick around. How long is this interview?
We can keep it rolling forever.
Keep it together another 15 minutes. I got another 8 minutes to keep it together.
I want to ask you an even more uncomfortable question than that.
Yeah, okay.
And it's going to be very uncomfortable. So I ask you if you could answer it honestly, which a part of why I feel comfortable
I'm
asking. I'm
nervous right now. I don't know.
Part of the reason why I feel comfortable asking, I think, could be insight into what the answer will be. But I spoke to a few people about you, and they all, I'm not saying some of them, I spoke to 4 people, they all said that you are one of their most favorite human beings. And I'm asking you I'm sure you're a humble person, but and maybe you're not humble. I don't know. Could you give insight into why you think that is the answer that they give? You know yourself better than anyone else. Why would they say that about you?
Good question, Yaakov. You're good today.
He's a good guest. I'm an older guest.
No, I'm a good guy. I'm not like a bad guy.
Right,
I'm
right. You're not a murderer,
aspire to be
right?
a decent person.
Okay, good.
You know.
Come on, give me something.
We're getting somewhere.
Again, I think that I don't know. Maybe it's just the recognition that the way that people perceive me in my profession, because of my professional roles, or because of the opportunities that.
But these people really know you. It's not.
Chazdei Hashem, I've kind of like just been open to different opportunities and have been very privileged with the family that I was raised in and the family that I married into. Very privileged to be surrounded by great people.
You're deflecting hard
Yeah,
right now.
definitely.
You're
That's
deflecting
definitely
hard
true,
right now.
but-
Did you
but
play
you-
goalie when you were a kid in hockey?
You're talking about before about
I
the panini
played
minutes.
goalie just because it's hard for me to run around. And then I moved to first base a little bit. But you understand.
No, but like, what about your character? What about you? Specific. What do you think it is?
I'm very aware. I'm aware.
Yeah.
I'm aware of myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I'm aware of the fact that people have a perception of me, and I'm very, very conscious and becoming more comfortable with my shortcomings, and also aware of my strengths. I'm becoming more comfortable. Recognizing that schos avos. I don't know. I have a Rabbi who is very generous with me, who's very open with me, and very very
who's your
patient
Rabbi?
and kind. Rav Kluger, Rav Avram Tzvi Kluger, should be well. Who's very generous with his time with me and invests in me. I'm very lucky. I hit the jackpot. That I know that that I've grown a lot in my life, being married to Ora, and our kids are my greatest teachers in a real way. In a real way, you can't. If you want things to go without bumping up in conflict all the time, without being at war with the world around us and fighting, ourselves. So we could just be okay with the fact that like we have Nekudas Tovos, that like Hashem granted all of us abilities and strengths and beautiful points, and to be proud of our accomplishments and to feel good about what we're getting right, and to also recognize that we're works in progress. So I guess if you probably asked people I'm friends with also. I'm
Actually, a few enemies.
Yeah.
So I hate
no,
you.
the people are people, and I guess as we get older, I'm getting more forgiving of myself, and more patient with myself, and by extension, maybe more forgiving and patient to the people around me, because of the recognition that the Ribono Shalom sees us in an unconditional way. And again, recognizing us from the inside out, that more than what we do, it's who we are, and that essentially we're good. And the more I cut myself some slack, I'm able to cut other people slack too. Kamocha, hafta recha, kamocha. So I guess like, being open to the reality that we're all in this together, and everybody's on a journey, and there's a beginning and there's a middle and an end, and we're all in the middle of the story, and we're all under construction. And that there's just infinite ways of getting it right. And no one has a monopoly on the truth. And there's no such thing as the Torah perspective. And just being open to that metzias, which is really, I think, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu intended, so to speak, an openness and just a way of surfing through the world, as opposed to like struggling and fighting with everything. I guess the more okay I am with myself, the more okay I am with other people. And maybe that makes it comfortable.
Yeah. But I'm like not letting this go. I want to go. Like, were you born like were you born like this? This isn't.
Yeah, he was born with his beard.
How
and the
did you
glasses. attain
this level of?
He's still working. It's a journey.
I know, but was it a journey? Like, did you set on a path to be?
I mean, in every way. I again, you see me in a certain way because you Googled a few things. And
actually being there, but yeah.
I mean, you because you read an article in Mishpacha, or you read a couple of Divrei Torah that I wrote, or you've seen moments of success or godless in the world. You don't really know what goes into like the way Rav Hutner described the Chafetz Chaim. Everyone sees the Chafetz Chaim as a person who's, reached the highest level of tzidkos, you don't know the struggles that went into the Chafetz Chaim being the Chafetz Chaim. And if it's true for the Chafetz Chaim, then Allah is kama kama for every single one of us. You know, we're slugging it out on a day-to-day basis. Every single moment is a bechira. Every single moment is a challenge. I mean, in every physical sense and in every emotional and religious sense, I struggle on a daily basis with weight, with confidence, with learning, being kovetim l'Torah, with sticking to a practice of learning halacha every single day, which is unnatural for me. I like unstructured, freewheeling, easy go. It's hard, but I'm working on that and trying to, again, children are the greatest teachers. You know, if you want home to be a certain way, you want kids to be a certain way, which is always a losing proposition. So then we have to live up to a certain standard. I want to be worthy of the person that I'm married to. And I want, you know, I want to be a better person, and I want to grow. And it's a day-to-day thing. It's moment by moment. You know, there's a phenomenal book that I would suggest called Living in the Presence by a dear friend, Rabbi Dr. Benji Epstein. It's a guide to mindfulness. Now, yeah, he's a wonderful person. And it's a guidebook for which lays out, again, the recognition and the reality that the world is that every single moment Hashem is recreating the world. And if Hashem is constantly recreating the world, that means that every moment is a choice, is an opportunity to get it right or almost get it right, you know, or and then start again and try again. And I mean, Yiddishkeit, you know, Limud HaTorah doesn't come naturally or easily. I didn't always love learning, and I don't always love learning. And I don't love going to shul. And I'm not great at Shmiras HaLashon, you know. I'm not great at a lot of those things. And okay, working on it. You know, I'm working on it consciously a lot of the time, and sometimes, you know, get distracted with other things. So I don't know what you perceive. You see a beard, and
I don't even know.
You know,
I don't even see the beard.
Beard. I don't know what you see. You know, you see
the beard.
You know,
I
a
see the
couple
beard.
decent. I'm knocking out decent article. You know, the OU Torah tidbits every week. There's some decent content coming out.
I'm literally basing it on this past 58 minutes that we're sitting here talking, and your calm demeanor, your acceptance with who you are and what your situation, everything like that's all I'm basing it off.
Okay, I'll take the milah tova, take the good word. No, it's a nice thing to be able to say a good word to a person, and you know, you guys make it easy. You're nice guys. It's a comfortable space.
Thank you. Is there any thought that you'd want to leave off?
Oh, that's it? Are we
Yaakov,
done?
Unless there's-
Yaakov, you missed a key question. I know we changed it for the last guest. Favorite mitzvah?
Oh, now you want us to ask it?
I want to make sure.
Nahi always makes fun of me.
Favorite mitzvah, v'chai bohem, full send.
Well, why?
Life, to be alive. To be alive. Lo amus ki echya. There's a way of being in the world where you could be going through motions, where Yiddishkeit is transactional, or it's utilitarian. It's about a spreadsheet of do's and don'ts and yeses and nos, and where we're constantly measuring ourselves and measuring our success. And there's a place for that. Yiras hachet, there's a place for that, and that's very important. And there's a place for all of that. But then there's the chiyus of Yiddishkeit, of enjoying life, of Yiddishkeit, meaning there's Shulchan Aruch, there's Shas, there's Torah, mitzvos, and then there's like this amorphous white fire that surrounds and gives context to all the black letters of all the Tareg mitzvos called v'chai b'hem. V'chai b'hem. Like the Ariya Kodesh says that all the mitzvos in Torah are all kind of like eitzos, all different ways for us to reach the level of dveikus of Hashem. V'chai b'hem is enjoying that dveikus. V'chai b'hem is a conscious recognition that like being alive is the greatest gift, and you might as well enjoy it. Like to do what we're doing and enjoy what we're doing. You know, to enjoy time with friends, enjoy time with family, to enjoy Shabbos and enjoy the week, you know, enjoy the ups and ride the downs and kind of recognize, you know,
I have such a hard time with that. It's so funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Not like I'm depressed in any way.
Meaningful minute.
I happen to be, before I do this, I don't know if I'll sign up for
too much
Meaningful
greatness.
Minute.
Too much talk.
No,
about
I don't think
greatness.
it's that. I think it's probably not enough bitachon. It's just like I'm just worried about the future and like I can't live in the present. What advice would you give to me?
I also have that, but
Buy Benji's book on Amazon.
Living
Benji
Living the
Epstein.
Present, Dr. Epstein. Yeah.
He's also a Camp Pass guy.
He is a director of staff development and clinical research. Yeah.
That's a title.
It is. He's also a great guy.
Wow. So is there any last message, idea, concept, thing about you, thing about Hask, thing about Hashem, thing about anything that you'd want to mention to the world?
Enjoy, to be grateful and to enjoy. To be grateful for the opportunities we have. To be grateful to have, even when things don't go the way we hope and when we struggle and when we fall short, to be grateful that we have an opportunity to get it right the next time or to try to get it right the next time. To be grateful for the desire to get it right the next time, that we want bichlal. To be grateful to be living at such an extraordinary time also in the world, to just be thankful for Hashem and for that, and to be thankful for being a Yid. It's really good. Yiddishkeit, it's really good. It could be really fun too. If we're getting it right, then it's there. We have our baggage, we have our struggles, we have a lot of questions, and we have a lot of things. Like you said, we're all working on bitachon, and everybody's working on everything, and working on ourselves. But just to recognize that that's what we are. We're works in progress. Like that's the way it's supposed to be. Like that's the way Hashem designed it. There's not getting there. Like the process. You got to trust the process and just be okay with it. And to trust in Hashem, put it on Hashem, talk to Hashem, and say, Ribono Shel Olam, we're in this together. Like I'm inextricably bound. I'm reflecting you in the world. We're together on this, and we put it on the Ribono Shel Olam. So then, whether it's up or it's down, whether it's the market's trending or whatever it is, it's okay. It's okay. We're in this together, and that recognition is it's very comforting. It's very comforting. It's very empowering too. Anyways, l'chaim.
Rav Judah Mischel, you are a rock star. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It's great, guys. Be well.
There you have it. You listened to the full episode. He's a fantastic person, as you can see. We'll release the other part of our conversation a different time. You want to do this over?
No.
Oh, I thought you were motioning to do this over. Yeah, it was really cool. Nachi, what do you think about it?
I loved it. It was such a pleasure to sit down with someone like Rav Judah. Such a breath of fresh air.
Our other guests weren't breaths of fresh air?
I'm going to ignore you. But he was just so, I don't know, we felt so present talking to him.
So present.
And he brought us swag.
Yeah, he totally did. And if this is, a big number for you, I don't know what number we're up to, the 16th, 15th episode. Yeah. Thanks for listening to all of them. If this is your first episode listening to, go back, listen to a few others. We get a lot that people say, oh, I know that person, so I listen to them. Listen to a few episodes of the people you don't yet know, because they all have such amazing stories to say.
Right, and fun news, guys. You might be listening to this on Spotify or Apple or on our website, but you'll now be able to listen to the podcast on the Meaningful Minute app. So go ahead to your app store and download the Meaningful Minute app, and there you have it. You can listen to this podcast and all the previous ones.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Enjoy. Ciao.